is the important thing. Some people felt, the disciples felt that it was a physical resurrection, that the physical body got up. Then Paul came on the scene, who had been trained in Greek philosophy, who knew a little about Greek philosophy, and had read a little probably of Plato and others who believed in the immortality of the soul. And he tried to synthesize the Greek doctrine of the immortality of the soul with the Jewish Hebrew doctrine of resurrection. And he talks, as you remember, you read it, about a spiritual body. Spiritual body. Whatever form, that is important right now. The important thing is that that resurrection did occur. The important thing is that that grave was empty. The important thing is the fact that Jesus had given himself to certain eternal truths and eternal principles that nobody could crucify and escape. So all of the nails in the world could never pierce this truth. All of the crosses of the world could never block this love. All of the graves in the world could never bury this truth. Jesus had given himself to certain universal principles. So today the cross that we worship, are inescapable. We can talk this morning about the inescapable Christ. We can't get by for all of the world. He lives today. He lives today in society. He lives today in our lives. He lives today in the world. This is our hope. This is what keeps us going. That is something in the cross. That is not only an element of tragedy. That is an element of triumph within that cross. So you can go out this morning with new hope for the future. No matter how dark it gets, realize that God ultimately transformed Good Friday into Easter. Some years ago, somebody asked William Howard Taft, what about the League of Nations? He said most good things in this world get crucified, eventually placed in a tomb. There's always the third day. Isn't that true? That League of Nations that was one day crucified. Today it's resurrected in the United Nations. Woodrow Wilson probably died unhappy and frustrated because men didn't have the vision to see it. They didn't have the vision to follow it, but today that is the United Nations, which is nothing but the old League of Nations on a broader scale. And before there can ever be peace in this world, we must turn to an instrument like the United Nations and disarm the whole world and develop a world police power so that no nation will possess atomic and hydrogen bombs for destruction. This is our hope, isn't it? It was buried one day. Now it has been resurrected. Years ago, back in 1896, doctrine was crucified. The doctrine of righteousness. The doctrine of treating men as equals. The doctrine of integration. It was crucified. There was a man by the name of Joseph Holland who was crucified along with it, I guess. He was condemned because he gave a dissenting vote when they set forth the Plessy versus Ferguson decision. Thank God that came May 17, 1954, and it was resurrected. Given in a unanimous decision by the Supreme Court of the United Nations, here was a minority opinion in 1896, which became a majority opinion in 1954. What is this saying? The cross reveals to us that ultimately the impractical idealists of yesterday become the practical realists of today. The cross reveals to us that what was a minority opinion yesterday becomes a majority opinion tomorrow, and the world forgets that it ever trampled over it because it rises up with new truth and new meaning and new beauty. This is what the cross tells us. It brings hope to us. So this morning, let us not be disillusioned. Let us not lose faith. So often we've been crucified. We've been buried in numerous graves. Grave of economic insecurity, the grave of exploitation, the grave of oppression. We've watched justice trampled over and truth crucified. And I'm here to tell you this morning, Easter reminds us that it won't be like that all the way. It reminds us that God has a light that can shine amid all of the darkness, and he can bring all of the light of day out of the darkness of the midnight.